And then knock knock.
Who's there?
Let us.
Let us who?
Let us in. It's cold outside. Every time I do like a new recording with somebody who's not familiar with that way of like syncing up audio, they're always like, "Who's there?" As if like it's a horror movie and they're scared of who's outside. And it's always a lettuce.
The worst part is, in my head, I just saw like a cartoon head of lettuce.
Fun fact, I've probably told that joke about 500 times now. That is the joke I've told at the start of every recording session we've done for the last 3 years. Like during the pandemic, just every recording session started with that not joke.
It works.
It does.
It ain't broke.
For anyone out there who's wondered why would you say a not joke at the start of a recording session, normally you'd clap to sync up audio and visuals of just bang. You can just sync up the moment my hands come together and the sound of the clap. But it's very difficult to sync up audio in the same way. But if you tell a not joke, you can get the cadence of conversation. But anyway, welcome to another episode of Fact Fiend. I'm joined by Najela of the New Jersey Red Umbrella Alliance. And we're going to talk about Skyrim.
Yay.
I like how I did this last time as well. I'm like, here's this very important person who does very important work. We're going to talk about The Sims. And I've done the same thing for Skyrim. How's that feel?
Pretty good. I'm gonna turn off my camera because you're starting to freeze on my end.
Oh no. Well, in which case then I'll have to be very careful not to talk over you. But I will now do my intro. A common trend of role-playing games is the inclusion of some sort of morality system to disincentivize players from just committing crimes to solve all of their problems. For example, in the game Skyrim, any crime that's committed will normally have a digital steel-plated police officer track you down and beat you to death with the flat side of a broadsword. Police, it turns out, have a direct line to telepathic chickens, who will snitch on you at a moment's notice.
I've already lost.
So far away, Najela, how familiar are you with the game Skyrim? Because for myself, Skyrim is just the video game. Until the release of Baldurs Gate 3, anytime I wanted to play a video game, I would just reinstall Skyrim. Now I reinstall Baldurs Gate 3, but before that, it was Skyrim.
Skyrim, I think, is kind of like the top tier gaming experience. When Xbox did their like big anniversary and they showed you which game across all your Xboxes you played the most, mine was Skyrim.
I feel like it would have been for myself if not for the existence of Halo 3, because I adored Skyrim. And even though I played it the exact same way every single time, I always had fun. I always think, oh, this time I'm going to be an orc berserker. And then when I'm in the character creation screen, I'm like, or I could be a lizard who steals shoes. Or, if I'm feeling spicy, a wizard lizard.
Haven't seen you here before, egg sister.
So I love being a Khajiit. I do love... I'm rarely a human because I feel like I'm already a human.
Yeah, that's why I play as a...
The only time I've made a character that was a human, I was Beyonce because I had a mod that enhanced the Bard College, because for those of you who haven't played Skyrim, you could become a bard and go to the college. You learn like 3 songs.
Yeah.
It's lacking, but there's a mod that you could get that completely overhauls the bard system, so you actually have to learn different instruments, different songs, and your instruments give you buffs in battle, so I like love that mod. So to play it, I made myself Beyonce.
So that's pretty good, because playing as a bard reminds me of like why I love Baldur's Gate 3 so much. And on a recent replay of Baldur's Gate 3, I decided to just, screw it, I'm going to make every member of my party do the exact opposite of what their intended role is. So I made like Karlach the Berserker into my thief. I made like Astarion, in like the vampire rogue, into my barbarian. Then I made like Shadowheart the goth girl into the bard. And I didn't realise that every character in the game has unique voice lines for every single class, including their own barbarian scream, or their own insults when they use Vicious Mockery as a bard.
My life, Part 12, the boring opponent. You're greasier than a walrus. Even Havergag in your bedeviled stench. Twit, twat. Behold a most noisy cup.
I had no idea.
It's so good. I didn't realise, like, Karlach, the huge, big, 8-foot-tall barbarian woman, when she's sneaking, she'll just sometimes laugh under her breath and go, sneaky Karlach. And it's like, what is this video game?
Stealth mode activated.
Why does it have so many sisters? Why do they put so much effort into it? I love it, but I replay it at least once every 3 months now. Help.
But I feel like when they put that much effort in the game, it makes it like infinitely replayable.
Exactly. And
Which is why you have Skyrim on everything.
Yes.
Because it's infinitely replayable.
Even though I always play the same character, a lizard who steals people's shoes and occasionally casts magic. The Lizard Wizard. But to explain, Skyrim, like many role-playing games, has a morality system, and it's kind of in-depth, but you don't try and think about it too much. But you are able to commit many crimes, like trespassing or stealing. However, there is a penalty for doing so, because the developers didn't want the solution to every given problem a player might encounter to be crime.
Anyway, I started blasting. Bah! Bah! Well, I don't see so good, so I missed. Then they ran away.
As in the real world, I have such a problem doing crime in video games. Like, it would be so much easier if I played Skyrim and every solution was crime. But I can't do it because I'm like, oh, but then they'll be mad at me.
Well, that's like the beauty of video games, right? There's that Tumblr post that goes around every now and again of like, video games make kids violent. And it's like, meanwhile, I'm over here refusing to pick the evil option because I don't want to be mean to the NPCs.
Yeah, that is me in a nutshell.
Yeah, and I hate doing that. I remember it was it's Baldurs Gate 3. I was playing through that and I said, do you know what? I'm just going to be a dick to my party. Why not? Fuck it, I don't care anymore. And just once I was like, you know what, Karlach, stay in camp for a little bit. And when you tell her to stay in camp, she just goes, really? Really, really? And I felt so bad. I felt so bad in that moment. I was like, no, actually, no, you can come along. She's like a puppy. It's like, okay, you can come along on the adventure. You can, like, throw more, like, goblins off of, like, cliffs. I know you love that.
We know you by your true name, Maglumba.
Praise Marklumpa!
A lot of times I'm playing Skyrim, even though I've modded it to be Jesus and back. Whenever I get like an assassin called on me, I'm like, but who was mad enough to assassinate me? I'm so nice.
I always love that when you get the assassins, because I always call my player characters one of two things, and it's either Dick Smasher or Wu-Tang. I don't know where that started, but just every player character I can choose the name, it's Dick Smasher or Wu-Tang. Or like in Baldur's Gate, it's now like, just Son of Wu-Tang. But just it's like when the bandit, just like you read their note and it's like, okay, find and kill Dick Smasher. And it's like, if I got that, mission as a bandit, I'd be like, no thank you. I don't want to know how they got that name. I'm not hunting down Dick Smasher the Dragonborn. That's the most metal name I've ever heard. And we're in a fantasy setting. Bollocks to that.
Well, I feel like if I was in any fantasy setting, like, I'm not doing anything that would possibly be an inciting incident. Like, I do not want to be the main character in this world.
Oh yeah, absolutely. That's the thing, isn't it? If like just like on Twitter in video games, you don't want to be the main character of an RPG. Because the end is you're gonna have to go fight God. And it's like, I don't want to fight God. I don't, but you're gonna have to. You're the main character. You've got the biggest hairstyle. You have to go fight God. It's like, but I don't want to fight God. Just fire the dog. If Cade wins, I will lose my shit. If we win with this, so I think we've killed one of the parts because we're only doing damage to one bit.
For one part there, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I did!
Did it?
Cade won! Cade!
Yeah.
We just shot a dog at the ultimate opponent.
We beat God with a dog.
Lucas, well, what's dog backwards?
Exactly.
I'm so sorry. I thought I muted my phone.
No, it's fine. It didn't show up on mine. And if that's the thing, hey, if the notification shows up, I'm going to add it to the background of the video. The last time you were on a video, like your Discord wasn't muted, and a bunch of your Discord notifications bled through into the final bit of audio that we had in the final
And I'm
cut.
so sorry.
No, here's the thing. I found it funny because it got me while I was editing. While I was editing, I kept checking my phone. I'm like, what? it said I got a message, then I realised it was in the audio. So what I did is I isolated the sound of your Discord notification going off and added it into the video more.
I was looking at like the comments, and everybody's like, "Oh my god, why is our Discord keep going off?" And I'm like, "I'm not that popular, I swear."
Yeah, it's because I heard it in the background. Then what I did is I said I isolated it, turned the volume up slightly so it was more noticeable, then added it back in a bunch of times. Because you know what, if it got me, it's going to get somebody else. But speaking of getting people, in regards to the crime system in Skyrim, it's fairly simple. You commit a crime, you pay a fine. And if you can't pay a fine, you either get killed by the cops or sent to prison. And most basic crimes are accounted for in the game systems, going from trespassing all the way up to murder, all of which, again, you can just pay with a fine, which makes Skyrim quite a realistic video game if you think about it, because if you're rich enough, you can commit any crime and just pay to get away with it.
When I first started playing Skyrim, the thing that used to annoy me is the horses. It's very easy to get on the wrong horse.
Oh, absolutely, yes.
And then you get on the and now you're a horse thief, and they take horse thievery so freaking seriously, way more than I anticipated.
Here you go, girl.
Why do they give such a huge shit about horses?
I just think they really like their horses.
Maybe.
Which, like, same. If they weren't terrifying, I would have so many horses.
To be fair, in Skyrim, they do have the all-terrain, like, 4x4 horses that can go up, like, vertical inclines. That's a pretty good horse. I'd want to keep that horse.
I try not to do crimes in
Okay.
Skyrim.
But is there like,
But-
you know, a moment where you couldn't help yourself and you did commit some crimes? 'Cause I have many examples to talk about of me committing crimes in video games.
So sometimes you don't know what you're doing is committing a crime, because if you do a quest for somebody and then you're cool with them, you could take some things from their house.
Oh, yeah.
Because you're welcomed. But then there'll be other things where you think, oh, I've been picking up stuff, and they're cool with it. That is stealing.
Yes.
So I commit like a lot of the accidental crimes in Skyrim.
And I do like how there are systems in place to account for that. Like, if you are being attacked by someone for stealing something from their home or committing a minor crime against them, if you stay your weapon and, like, aim at the person, I think press, like, to stay your weapon again, it will yield, which is not a system the game explains very well. But if the character who's attacking you happens to like you, or you're in good enough standing in that region, normally you get away with it. But you can only do it once or twice. It's similar to, like, assaulting someone when you've, like, a Thane. Like, you can get away with committing, like, 1 or 2 crimes, which I always celebrate when I become a Thane. Like, oh, I'm the Thane of Whiterun. The way I celebrate is by immediately punching the Jarl in the face. It's so funny where it's like, you are now a Thane of Whiterun. Okay, punch the Jarl in the face. His guards come up and say, what are you doing? You just assaulted the Jarl. It's like, I'm a Thane. Oh, okay, carry on. It's like, yes. You shouldn't have given me this power.
I have never, like, as much as I've played, as many hundreds of hours I've played in Skyrim, I very rarely beat the game. Or I very rarely go through the main quest line.
No one does, right? That's the whole point.
So-
I don't think I've ever completed Skyrim.
Really?
No, I don't think I ever have. I think I watched a friend play it and went, man, this story sucks. Although I will play to the point where you can steal, like, the high elf hoods, because I do like the Thalmor outfit, so I stole those, and then just wear that for, like, you know, my lizard wizard.
Well, for me, it's like I've watched my brother beat it. He's the one that got me into it. And I was just very sad that you couldn't, like, befriend the dragons. Like, so you're telling me the one dragon I get to talk to, I have to murk him? Like, no, I'm not doing that. But I only go through enough of the main storyline to become a Thane so I can get my house.
Yep.
So I could pretty much make Skyrim into my little farming family sim.
It becomes, like, Stardew Valley, as it was always meant to be. And I'm like, you know, there's 2 different approaches to, like, playing Skyrim. I feel like you might be the opposite to me, where I get my house, I don't decorate it, but I walk in, and any treasure I've got, just drop it on the floor and leave. Just immediately walk in, drop it on the floor and leave. It's like, you know what? If it's valuable, I'll come back and get it later.
I spend like hours designing my little house and making sure I have everything. I have a room for all my armors, and they're in like
Yep.
a specific order. by like which one I find the most aesthetically pleasing. I make little beds for all my adopted orphans and their disgusting pet rats they keep on adopting.
And that's the thing, I do the opposite. Like I said, I walk in, drop all my shit on the floor, and I'm done. Just pure efficiency, baby. But in regards to like the crimes that you can commit in the game, while there is a system that discourages you from committing crimes, via fining you and having guards pursue you endlessly. But I remember in like Oblivion, I committed I think I stole a wheel of cheese, and one of the guards chased me all the way into the plains of Oblivion to tell me that I had to pay a fine, and I'm like in the middle of Oblivion, in the middle of the final mission, saving the world, told him to do one, and then he started attacking me. He joined the side of the Daedra for a 40 gold fine. What a dick.
I mean, you shouldn't have stole that cheese.
I shouldn't have stole that cheese.
Man.
I remember once as well, I think I got really annoyed, like a shopkeeper tried to rip me off. Like, I tried to buy something off him, and he told me that I wasn't offering enough, so I tried to haggle, and it went wrong. So what I did is I punched all of his items on his shelf onto the floor, and then the guards got caught. But this is why I play as a lizard wizard, because Argonians can breathe underwater. So what I do is I just go hide underwater in a lake, and the guards will swim down, just stare at you underwater until they die, and then float to the surface, and I steal their armor. It's mine now. So,
ingenious.
The thing is that's not crime. That guy killed himself. I didn't touch him. I always play, like I said, the lizard wizard. It's too real. It's too strong an option. I also love as well that Argonians get a passive buff to unarmed damage that they never tell you in game. Like, just as a race, they get a passive buff to unarmed damage because they have like scaled hands, and they just never tell you that, which I always found fun.
But it makes so much sense.
It does make sense as well, and that's the kind of thing that Skyrim's great for. These things that the systems that aren't explained but make the world feel more realistic. And if you just so happen to want to be a dickhead who commits crimes, you can join the Thieves Guild, where they encourage you to steal everything that's not nailed down, or the Dark Brotherhood, where you can commit murder for fun and for profit. And I always join the Dark Brotherhood as well, just to get Shadowmere, because I want the unkillable vampire horse.
I joined the Dark Brotherhood for my clown friend.
Oh yeah, he's got a really good follower as well, like Cicero, because he's just I love
he's
his
so
dialogue.
creepy.
Oh, Cicero has returned, not to kill the kind listener, but to serve until one of us dies horribly in service to our mother. Best friends forever.
But I'm just a huge fan of Shadowmere, because one of my favourite prompts in video gaming is when you get Shadowmere, and like your prompt is, behold Shadowmere, and it rises out of the earth in its stock A pose like a fucking Pokemon. Because it looks so shit when you look back on it, but at the time, oh my god, it's Shadowmere, the vampire demon horse, let's go!
The thing, as much as I love Shadowmere, he is so aggressive. So when I'm trying to play like my passive way, he's just going nuts. So you could be like walking peacefully, like picking flowers in a valley, and there's a giant like a mile away. Your horse is going to go aggro that giant, and then I'm going to be kicked in the face about it.
Yeah, I love though when with Shadowmere, because Shadowmere is unkillable. I remember once I've seen Shadowmere go and like attack a giant, and like the giant did the thing where it hit him and sent him like 1,000 feet into the air. I was looking and thinking, I'm not getting that back. Just like, I'm not getting that horse back, am I? And then like half an hour later of in-game time, Shadowmere just rocked up as if nothing happened. I went, that's why I got Shadowmere. If that was any other horse, it'd be in orbit. But
Yeah.
Shadowmere came back.
But Shadowmere got me killed way more than it ever saved me.
Well, that's the thing. It's just, I don't really like using like the horses in Skyrim because they're not really that great. So just having one that's unkillable means you can go off cliffs. Just the idea of like, I can just take a shortcut off this mountainside is just really, really handy.
Well, I have a mod that makes horses like moving storage.
Oh, that's another thing as well, yeah, because the other thing you can do with Shadowmere, I think in Oblivion, not Skyrim, is if you knock out Shadowmere, you can quickly go into Sneak and then reverse pickpocket all of the items you don't want to carry onto Shadowmere, and then just knock it back out again when you want to get more items. Alternately, because Shadowmere has infinite HP, you put the difficulty up to the absolute maximum so its HP pool goes like to like a bazillion points. Then you can just like cast destruction spells against Shadowmere to level up. which I always find hilarious.
I know of that method. I just don't want to hurt my horsey friend.
But it's an unkillable vampire horse. And I also think as well, imagine someone looking out the window and seeing that. So is the Dragonborn still out there? Yeah. How long's it been? About 4 days. They're still punching the horse. Still punching the horse. It's like, do you want to go out there and talk to them? No. I don't want to go and talk to the person who's been punching a vampire horse for 4 days straight. I'd rather not do that.
To me, like, I know there probably isn't like this robust like reputation system in Skyrim, but I feel like I'm being judged by all the people in Skyrim.
The thing, there technically is, and this is something we talked about in a previous Fact Fiend video, the Radiant AI of Oblivion, which was overhauled and included in Skyrim. But in Oblivion, in the video when we talked about it, the developers noted that, the Radiant AI we implemented, which is supposed to make the world feel more alive and lived in, and allows NPC creatures and characters to interact with one another in semi-realistic ways, it was too smart. And the example they quoted is, well, some NPCs were programmed to be addicted to drugs, because that's apparently a thing you can do when you're designing player characters. Like, just make a digital character who's just addicted to drugs. And the problem is that the characters who were addicted to drugs would, as part of their programming, try to seek out the nearest source of said drug, which just so happened to be a dealer of the drugs who hid in a nearby cave. And they said that every time a new instance of Oblivion started, every drug addict in the game world would immediately descend upon this cave, punch that drug dealer to death, steal all of his drugs, take all of the drugs, and then overdose and die. And then the player would stumble across that scene later on and not be able to interact with any of the characters there. So they had to tone that down and limit like the area in which the AI's like bubble of interaction could impact.
I'm Rena Bruyant. I love dogs. Doesn't everyone? Bye.
That makes so much sense.
Yes. Well, previously it was just like, we're just going to give them infinite range, because surely there's going to seek out the closest things. It doesn't matter if the range is infinite. Say if they're hungry, for example, in Skyrim, if a character's hunger meter goes down, they will seek out the nearest source of food. And when that was infinite, it doesn't really matter, because most of the time food is within walking distance. But it's something you can test in the game by, if you steal all the food in somebody's house, they will just walk out into the woods and start hunting for deer or venison. Or if they've got a low morality rating, which is another system in the game that's hidden to make the game feel more alive, they will go and try and steal food, which is actually how one character in the final version of Oblivion always ends up dead. So there's a character called City Swimmer, and near enough every game instance that you start up will have City Swimmer be dead.
Keep your eyes on City Swimmer. I don't know where she goes when she's not in the canals.
Blessings of Stendar upon you.
And that's the result of a confluence of quirks they gave to this specific character. So City Swimmer is programmed to be starving, which means they want to seek out food, but they're also programmed to be shit poor, so they try to steal food. However, they are also, in addition to being starving and poor, programmed to be bad at stealth. So they will almost always get caught stealing.
Why, you dirty little thief! How dare you touch me!
And as a result, in almost every version of the game that gets booted up, when you go to the city in which City Swimmer lives, you will find her being either actively pursued by guards,
Let's get this over with.
Or dead on the ground.
Pay the fine!
And what makes it really harsh is, most of the time, you'll go over to, the corpse of City Swimmer, and there's just a loaf of bread. They got killed stealing a loaf of... The NPC characters are programmed to be able to steal, but they're not programmed to be able to pay fines. So the only option the guards have with their own Radiant AI is just to kill them. Which is just so brutal,
so
right?
Harsh.
They basically created that character to die.
It kind of reminds me, like, as much as, like, I am such a wuss when it comes to playing Skyrim and I don't want anybody mad at me, I do like mess. So sometimes I'll, like, you know that glitch where you could basically enchant armor and you do it in a certain way that you, like, you make this OP armor. So sometimes I'll just, like, drop it in town. And people will really want it, and they'll fight over it. And I'll just see the NPCs go nuts.
Yeah, Oblivion and Skyrim don't explain this, but they just expected players to experiment with it. And some of the ways you can influence the Radiant AI to do things on your behalf include, like, as you said, dropping a good or expensive piece of armor on the floor will make people want to go pick it up. And they can fight over it. Likewise, if you are in combat, if you drop a really good sword on the floor, sometimes bandits will drop their own sword to go and try and pick it up. So what you can do then is go quickly pick up the sword. Now the bandit doesn't have a sword. Which I thought
that is a way better way of using that.
Well, that's the thing,
than me just making NPCs fight for my amusement.
They never tell you that you can do this, but they just put the systems in place so that anyone wanting to experiment can eventually find it. And you know what, folks, don't let us know your favourite example of, like, manipulating or abusing the systems and AI within an RPG like Skyrim or Oblivion. But bringing it back to Skyrim specifically and their snitch chickens, the Radiant AI in that game allows, like, characters to interact with animals. And normally the interactions are just, this character is hungry, this animal is programmed to drop food when it's killed, that character, when hungry, will seek out that animal to kill it and take said food. But due to just something they overlooked in the programming, every single animal in Skyrim has a direct line of sight to guards, for some reason.
And I love that they don't tell you this.
Of course.
When the first town you end up in,
yes,
has so many chickens. And I think they did that on purpose.
I feel like this is a universal experience of playing Skyrim for the first time. You walk into the first town and you just walk up to the blacksmiths and say, well, I'm going to take this sword, no one's around, immediately get a 40 gold fine because someone saw you do it and someone reported your crime. And this is a thing that players complained about when Skyrim was released. And the developers eventually just dove into the game's code and realised that, as you said, it's chickens. The chickens can see you commit the crime, and then due to a quirk of their programming we overlooked, then telepathically report your crime to the police, who now automatically know that you've committed the crime and know where you are because the chickens also tell them your location. And for years, players assumed that, okay, this is just a quirk that only happens with chickens, right? It's a oversight in the way chickens are programmed. But it turns out every single animal in the game world has the ability to witness you commit a crime and then report it. But because animals have neutral morality, some of them won't. Because they don't have a morality, they just put their morality ranking at just smack bam in the middle. So some of them will see you commit a crime, but then just won't, for whatever reasons. Like deer, for example, can see you commit a crime, but won't report you. Horses, though, will. Which means that you can sometimes be snitched on by your own horse.
Damn, ACAB includes your own horse?
It does, but the one that gets me is dragons within the game's files count as animals, which means that in Skyrim, it is entirely possible to be reported for a crime by a dragon. Which I think is like, the dragons, like, by the end of the game, like, you can take a dragon out with your bare hands. They're not a threat. I just think that's the dragons evolving to the point of, like, well, like in, like, Marvel, it's like, you can't kill me, but I know, but he can. Level 8 guard in steel armor. It's just the dragon's, like, getting bullied by the Dragonborn so much that it was him, officer, just a snitch finger.
It's their most powerful shout.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, you're doing, like, the fuss rodar, and they're like, you know what? No, officer, it's him. It was him, officer, get it. That's the most powerful dragon shout of all. It was him, officer, get it.
Look at that snitch finger. I'm telling.
Was that an unblockable?
I'm telling right now. Yo, I told your ass. He did it. I got the paperwork to prove it. You laid on child support, bro.
Maya's gonna throw confetti, guys. Get hype.
So thank you for joining me on this episode, Najela. Is there anything you would like to plug? Because I believe at the start I mentioned that you are here on behalf of the New Jersey Red Umbrella Alliance. So would you like to speak a little to the work that they do?
So I'm the executive director of New Jersey Red Umbrella Alliance. We are a human rights organization that is focused on fighting for the decriminalization of sex work and fighting the stigma that criminalization creates. And one of the things that we're doing is we are preparing a study that we're going to present to the UN Human Rights Council, and we do this during the Universal Periodic Review of the UN. And to do that, we need to survey many sex workers, and we always want to compensate people for taking this survey. So we are fundraising for that effort. And I shared a link with Karl. Hopefully that will be on your screen or somewhere if you would like to donate to help us do that. We also have a running mutual aid program. So we help people just stay housed, stay fed, stay safe. And we are also trying to re-up our safe sex kits. So those have condoms, lubricants, dental dams, and things like that to keep our community safe. And they are unfortunately really, really expensive to procure.
I think there's a great Adam Ruins Everything bit about it of with charities, just give them money. It's just because they know how to spend your money better than you do. And I think the example they use, like food charities, people try and donate food. It's like, well, for the $1 you spent on that can of beans, if you give us that $1, we have deals with supermarkets and wholesalers. We can get the equivalent of $20 worth of food for your $1.
The truth is, the best way to help a food bank is to donate money, because we buy food on a wholesale level and we work with farmers, so we can take the $1 that you might spend on a single can of beans and turn it into exponentially more food.
We actually got a donation of condoms once, and it was very nice that somebody donated this, 500 condoms.
I just imagine the person's like, I don't need these anymore. Just sadly donating the box. Like, I don't need these anymore. My player days.
Well, it was a porn production company, basically, and an adult swingers event kind of thing. So they always had condoms. So they were just like, oh, we had an event. Here's all the leftover condoms. There was over 500 condoms. But if they would have just given us the money that they used to buy those condoms, we could have gotten 3 times as many condoms.
It just reminds me of when you go to university, when at first year university, they just throw them at everybody, right? All the charities there, that'd be encouraging all the students. They're like, hey, we know what you're here for. Wrap it up. Don't be silly. Wrap your willy. Don't be a div. Protect your shiv. All that good stuff. But yeah, that's you're doing important work, and I'm glad to have brought you onto the channel today to promote that. And if anyone would like to support Najela and their work, you can find the links below, or they've been on screen at some point. But to end on, do you have any stories of bad things you've done in video games, naughty things you've done in video games, or things that made you feel bad? And I have a thing. I have one story, and it's I felt so bad, and I think it speaks to the quality of the writing in Baldurs Gate 3. And I was romancing Karlach because, of course, the 7-foot-tall, spicy cinnamon bun. And I played the games a few times through, and I was looking through some guides about how to improve or ruin your relationship with certain characters. And something that piqued my interest is that the single biggest drop in relationship you can get with any character in the game is by sleeping with Karlach and then telling her that you're not interested. And I was so curious, because keep in mind, some of the things you can do to play characters include fucking killing them. You can get Astarion killed, and he gets real bitchy about it, but then you can tell him to shut up, and he's okay.
What in the sweet hells were you thinking, activating that lot? I was right there! Gods! Do you have any idea how much that hurt?
And I was like, you know what? I'm going to do that, because how bad can that be? How bad can I feel doing that?
I'm only going to say this once, so listen carefully. The people who care about you aren't playthings. You don't get to toss them aside and pick them up again when you get bored. My heart isn't a toy, got it? Treat it like one, and you're going to get burned. Badly. I'd ask you to explain yourself, but it's clear you have no idea what you want. I hope you figure it out before anyone else gets hurt.
And I was like, I felt so bad by doing that. But I wanted to see, well, this is the worst thing you can do in the game. Yeah, this is the worst thing you can do in the game. How bad can it be? I felt so bad. I had to like just boot up an old save. So I was like, oh god, no, Karlach, I'm sorry.
Let me see my top 3 bad things.
Okay.
Well, like starting off really light. I don't if you guys remember Fable 2.
Oh, do you shoot your wife?
No, not even that. You had to eat baby chicks, and that gets your evil up, so you could like open a door. Because they had the demon doors, and like one door is like, I want to see something like super evil. And the thing you have to do is eat baby chicks, 3 baby chicks.
Yes.
And like they had like the crunching sound. I was like, oh, I hate this.
Yeah, there's the baby chicks, or you can shoot your own child.
Yeah.
That's the other one. Like, one of the things you can do is like shoot your own wife. And it's like, well, when I was playing through that game, I would have min-maxing wives. Let's go. You got a min-max wife, got plenty, got like 5 more.
And another thing I did that made me feel terrible, we were just talking about like you could drop things in Skyrim, so you could go to the scuba den and like drop a bottle of scuba and they'll like go nuts for it, and then I'm like, this is so bad. I was like, I felt like a bad person, and I did it once, never did it again, because I was like, is this who you want to be?
Do you want to be causing just like I said, digital bum fights?
Yeah.
It's not great, right?
Hard to look in the mirror after that. I was like, did not feel great about that. What was another video game thing that made me sad? Oh, another thing with Fable 2, spoilers for a very old game, but they give you a choice where there's this like evil spire and you have a dog, like just the best dog ever. And at the end of the game, the bad guy shoots your dog in the face. And then they're like, hey, you can resurrect all the people who died building this spire, or your dog.
It's like, hey, I'm sorry people who built this spire, but you're not a good boy. Everyone picks that choice. I don't blame you, because as well, the dog is a useful mechanical tool for the game as well. It basically is removing your ability to search for treasure.
It's not even that, it's just like, it's my dog.
Yeah, it's like,
the dog didn't do anything wrong.
Exactly, fuck you, it's my dog.
But like, if you pick that choice, all the end game stuff, there's one party member, the Hammer, who's just like, I can't believe you did that. Like, who are you? I don't even know you right now. And like, they will never be nice to you again.
Well, it's bollocks to you. I don't care. I've got someone who's going to be nice to me forever. My dog. And that's like, speaking of dogs, you have that in Baldurs Gate. You have your dog, Scratch, and there is a point in the game where you encounter Scratch's owner. And it's like just this asshole dog breeder who beats their dogs. And every party member, including the evil one, is like, fucking kill her, murk that person right now. Murk them right now. And like, one of the worst decisions you can make is giving the dog back. And keep in mind, in Baldur's Gate,
who would do that?
You can have animal communication, so you can talk to the animal. And your dog just says, please don't send me back. They're going to hurt me. And it's like, no, go back, do what you told your dog.
Master, I am ready to go home now. Meant for what to happen? When are you taking me home? Stay here. I do not want to. I want to go with you. Master? Master? Master?
I couldn't do it.
I couldn't. I tried to do an evil playthrough in Baldur's Gate and I couldn't do it. I felt too much. I felt like too much of a dick. And that it speaks to the quality of the writing.
Like, even in bad games, I can't be mean. Like, Crackdown 3, I waited so many years to be very much let down. But they have, like, these refugees, and, like, I don't want to be mean to them. Even though they are getting in your way and, like, walking into your bullets, like, I still feel bad because, like, these people are just refugees. I didn't do anything bad. I don't want to shoot them.
It's like, oh, we know that Time Crisis, something like that, and the people just jump in the way of your bullets. Don't shoot! And it's like, get out of my way. I'm trying to save the day.
Stop making it so easy.
But you get
but
to
I
a
feel
point,
really bad.
Yeah, you get to a point when you're playing the game though, where it's like you have to Kratos it and close your heart to it and go, they wanted to die. That person wanted to die. They jumped in my way. There was nothing I could do. Because, like, I think one more dog one. It's not something that happened to me, but I was watching a friend of mine play through like Grand Theft Auto 5, and he was just like driving around in his car. And a dog ran out in front of his car, and he hit the dog, and it made, like, the dog noise. Do you know the hurt dog noise? And we both looked at each other, he put the controller down and just pressed the button on his Xbox to turn it off. And they went, "Oh fuck, I didn't save it." It's, oh man, I wish I'd run a little bastard over now.
I am like a sponge of guilt. So even like the weirdest games have made me feel bad. Like Dead or Alive Beach Volleyball was a horror show for me because it was just a whole bunch of pretty girls being like, "Oh, you want to be my friend? Well, this gift you gave me did not please me." Like, it was just like a weird high school simulator for me.
I don't need this. It's like, Kasumi, you rock around in a fucking bikini 99% of the time when you're supposed to be a ninja. Your taste clearly isn't that great.
And just the fact that I'm just trying to get chose and nobody was choosing me. It was very hard on my psyche.
It's like everyone in that game chose to go to Zach's Pervo Island. Clearly your standards aren't that high. Fuck off.
And those girls with those bad standards were like, "Oh, I don't really want to play volleyball with you." And I'm just like, "Please be my friend."
Ew.
Wonder what it is.
I just
Are you
can't.
kidding? It's an iced tea.
It's hot. Sayonara, bitch! She's saying to you,
Christ, that is harsh.
But
I still finished the mission.
What a difficult boss battle.
Yeah.
It's so rough, right, when you have that in a video game. I'm going to keep mentioning Baldur's Gate because I just recently did a playthrough of it. And just, there's so many things you can do just to be a penis. And I did do the thing of, like, I'm gonna save scum this just to see what happens if I pick this option. Like, the really thirsty party member, Gale, where he keeps asking, "Can I eat your shoes?" And I'm like, "You're not eating my shoes, fuck off, Gale." And eventually he does just fuck off, he just leaves your party. And then later in the game, because people don't know, Gale has this condition where if he doesn't consume magical objects, he'll explode. He fucked off, and clearly, problem solved. Like, 10 hours later, he teleported into my camp and blew himself up.
What?
And I went, you know what, Gale, I respect it. I respect the move of the fuck you didn't win. He teleported into my camp to detonate himself and killed everybody. I respect it.
Bold choices.
Yeah, I love it. It's so good. Like, the fact that they... Oh, you know what? No, fuck off, you're not eating my shoes. And he came back and just blew himself up. It's like, well played. The long con.
I think the only thing that actually made me feel bad playing The Sims, which, of course, I bring it back to Sims. It's me. So when Parenthood first came out, I didn't get it. But they had a deal when Get Famous came out that you could have both the games and you play half price. So I was like, okay, I'll do that. It's a deal. So I added a whole bunch of like celebrities to be famous people in my world. So I made like Fallout Boy and Panic, like just dumb things.
Video games are awesome.
But I also was very into like the family gameplay that Parenthood did. So I was trying to have like perfect children. So I had my Sim self and I had my little Sim baby and I raised her mod free to be the perfect child. So she maxed out all of her education. She was a straight A student. She had perfect Sim qualities. So she had manners, everything maxed out. Mm-hmm. This is incredibly hard to do without mods.
Just like real life.
Especially because it was like buggy as hell. Like just having a Sim child that made it out of toddlerhood without starving to death. Very difficult. I did it. I made this perfect Sim child. So I noticed that my Sim child had befriended Brendan Urie.
And you're like, no,
and I wasn't paying attention. And so I had a birthday party for her when she was a teen to age up into a young adult. So I'm thinking, oh, she's going to be great. I'm going to like pause this. And when she gets to university, she's going to be a perfect. She, at the birthday party, snuck off as soon as she aged up and got knocked up by Brendan Urie in a goddamn bush.
It is amazing how realistic video games can be sometimes. You know what? Just like how realistic is that? Like Brendan Urie perving on a just turned legal girl. That's amazing. Video game.
And I was so mad.
How do they know? How do they know?
That I made like a dungeon in my basement that I put the Brendan Urie sim in, and I would just like, I made him immortal so he could die, but he wouldn't stay dead. And so he was just like continuously starving to death and then resurrecting. And then my brother came up one day and he like saw what I was doing and he was like, "What is wrong with you?"
He's like, he
And I
knows
felt
what he
so
did.
bad.
And
I told him, he was like, "So you know you're the villain in this story because like your little sim daughter fell in love with somebody, and because you didn't like them, you tortured them to death continuously."
So yeah.
And like, and I was like, "Okay, but you don't understand. I tried so hard, and she was perfect." And he like defiled her.
That's a horror movie right there. I'm pretty sure I've seen that horror movie. And it's like when I was playing. Oh, again, it's the same friend who like crashed into the dog in Grand Theft Auto. He was playing GTA 4. I remember like he's one of those people who like he'll try and play. He'll come up with his own rules for the game and try and stick to them. And the rule is like he got to the literal first bit of the game where you can drive taxis for Roman, and he was trying to make $1 million driving taxis just to see if he could. And he would walk in every day. I remember watching him play. It was infuriating, but you kind of respected his commitment to the bit of like he would make Nico go to sleep. He would walk across the road to like the hot dog cart. He would get a hot dog, and then he would walk, not sprint, not get in a car, walk to Roman's taxi cab office like 2 blocks away. Very, very slowly. And he would walk, and he would wait at the red lights and everything. I remember watching him do this, like, 'cause it was oddly therapeutic to watch. And on, like, the 3rd day of doing this, he was crossing the road. He's like, "You know what, Karl? I think today's going to be a good day for Nico." And as he said it, a car just, like, careened in front of him and came to, like, a complete stop. But hit Nico enough where he just, like, folded in half onto the bonnet. No. And my friend, he just looked at me and went, "I tried to be a nice guy," and he just swapped to his pistol. And the way like the physics worked in that game, like Nico was like lying on the crumpled heap on the floor. So when he stood back up, it looked like he pulled the pistol out of his pants. And my friend just went, "It begins," and just shot the guy in the head, and then just ran into the street firing the gun into the air. And it was like, because he spent so long building up to it, and it was completely organic, I just lost my shit.
I think sometimes when you're trying to play by those like very narrow rules, like it takes so much effort. So when a little thing goes wrong,
when
you just lose it. You just become a person that you didn't know you were capable of becoming.
But it's just the fact that when Nico's like got hit, and he's on the floor and he just looks at Karl. "I try to be a nice guy." Just perfect. But yes, if you have a similar story, let us know in the comments. But otherwise, thank you for watching, and we'll see you all next time. Cheers.
Thank you.